the invisible realm within, awakening to the fifth dark dimension. There are places within the soul we never dare to look. I'm not talking about the shadow self or the repressed wounds from childhood. Those are just the outer gates. I'm talking about the fifth dark dimension, a realm so rare and hidden that even seasoned mystics often miss it. If you're watching this and certain signs have been following you, like a deep disconnection from linear time, unexplained downloads of knowledge, or a sense that your dreams are more real than waking life, you may not be crazy. You may just be awakening to one of the rarest spiritual states in existence. But here's the twist. The fifth dark dimension isn't a place of peace or chaos. It's a mirror. A perfect mirror that reflects the parts of you that are neither light nor dark. It's the dimension of paradoxes, where truth and illusion coexist like twin flames. Have you ever felt like you were living in a glitch? Like reality was folding in on itself, and only you could see it? That's not your imagination. That's the door.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
When I entered it myself alone in the Himalayas, after fasting for 11 days, I didn't know what I was seeking. I had lost everything: money, relationships, even my sense of purpose. I sat in a cave, surrounded by silence so loud it roared. That's when I saw it, time fractured like glass. I could see every version of myself, every mistake, every triumph playing simultaneously. And then, something whispered, "You are not here to heal. You are here to remember." That was the first sign. In the fifth dark dimension, healing is not the goal. Remembering is, because the soul already knows. It always has. The pain you carry, it's not yours. The fear, borrowed. The longing, the signal. But if you're here, still listening, then something in your DNA is waking up. You felt it before, haven't you? That moment when the world pauses and everything feels strangely significant, like a déjà vu you can't explain. There's a reason the fifth dark dimension is so rare. Because it demands everything. It will strip you of certainty. It will test your sanity. It will whisper truths so profound they feel like lies. And yet, it will give you the power to rewrite your personal mythology. One of the biggest signs you're in it is when nothing external satisfies anymore. You could win the lottery, fall in love, achieve your dreams, and still feel empty. That's not depression. That's spiritual starvation. The soul is craving something the physical world can't offer. That's when many people fall into despair. But what if I told you that emptiness is actually the beginning of power? What if the void isn't empty, but full, so full you just haven't learned to see it yet? What if your loneliness is sacred? Can you sit with it, not fix it, not escape it, but truly be with it and ask, what are you trying to teach me? Another sign, you're being pulled between extremes. One day you're deeply connected, almost telepathic, feeling like you're channeling the divine. The next day you're empty, numb, like a ghost in your own life. That's not inconsistency. That's frequency fluctuation. In the fifth dark dimension, Your ego and spirit are in constant negotiation. The veil between dimensions is thin, and your body, this vessel, becomes the battleground. You may feel unbearable tension in your chest or head. You might hear whispers you can't trace, or feel emotions that don't belong to you. That's not psychic overload, that's alignment. You are syncing with a higher algorithm of reality. But here's the catch. You must learn to hold contradictions. Hold to be both broken and whole. Both confused and clear. Both nothing and everything. The fifth dark dimension doesn't give you answers. It gives you mirrors. And you must be brave enough to look. So I ask you deeply, sincerely, when was the last time you felt like you truly existed? Not just functioned, not just woke up, showered, went to work, but existed as a soul, as an infinite being temporarily wearing skin. If that question stirs something in you, you're already halfway through the portal. But don't rush. This journey is not about speed. It's about surrender. And surrender is not giving up, it's giving in. Giving into the unknown, to the silence between your thoughts, to the mysterious intelligence that brought you here. Do you trust it? Do you trust you? Because in the fifth dark dimension, trust is the only currency that matters. Not belief, not knowledge. Trust. And it has to be earned not from others, but from yourself. Now let's talk about time. If you're in the fifth dark dimension, time stops behaving like a straight line. You may find yourself remembering things that never happened, or forgetting things that just did. You may feel like you're having conversations with future versions of yourself, or even your past lives. This is not imagination. This is temporal fluidity. The dimension itself exists outside linear constructs. That's why many people who visit it feel like they've lived lifetimes in a single night, or have visions that later come true, not because they predicted the future, but because they remembered it. You see, the soul doesn't experience time the way the body does. And when you begin aligning more with soul than flesh, the rules of time break for you. That's a sign. That's not madness. That's mastery becoming possible. And let's not forget the dreams. If your dreams have become hyper-real, vivid, symbolic, intense, it's another major sign. In the fifth dark dimension, your subconscious becomes a direct communication line with the divine. You might dream of places you've never seen, languages you've never spoken, or beings of light and shadow giving you cryptic messages. Pay attention. Write them down. Even the confusing ones, especially the confusing ones. They carry codes. Your waking mind may dismiss them, but your soul doesn't. And in this dimension, the soul is driving. Your job is to learn its language, not silence it. Ask yourself, what if every dream you've ever had was a breadcrumb from your higher self? How would you live differently? And then there's the loneliness. This is perhaps the hardest part. When you enter the fifth dark dimension, you often feel like no one understands you anymore. Conversations feel shallow. Small talk, unbearable. You may even feel spiritually orphaned, like you're the only one seeing the world this way. That's not because you're broken. It's because you've evolved. You're not above others. but you are further down a path most haven't even noticed yet. And that path is lonely because it's sacred. The monks knew this. The sages knew this. Even Christ in the desert knew this. Spiritual isolation is not punishment. It's preparation. But the question is, can you sit in that isolation without bitterness? Can you turn your solitude into sanctuary? If these signs are all too familiar to you, don't panic. You're not lost. You're just rare. And rare things are often misunderstood. But you're not here to be understood. You're here to remember. And as you remember, you'll begin to awaken others not by preaching, but by presence. And that presence will become your power. You won't need to convince anyone. Your energy will speak louder than your words. But first, you must pass through the fire of forgetting. You must let go of who you thought you were to become who you've always been. The paradox of power, why the fifth dark dimension chooses you when you're broken. Have you ever wondered why the most spiritually attuned people are also often the most broken? Why those who carry the deepest light also seem to carry unbearable pain? It is not a coincidence. It is not a flaw. It is the paradox of the fifth dark dimension. This realm does not choose the strong, the successful, or the serene. It chooses the cracked, the fragmented, the ones who have been humbled by life so completely that they no longer cling to identity. Because only when you are broken enough to release control can you become a vessel for multidimensional truth. The fifth dark dimension is not a prize you win. It is a frequency you collapse into when all strategies fail. When the ego dies not in a dramatic blaze, but in quiet defeat. Have you ever sat on your floor at 3 a.m., unable to cry, unable to pray, just empty? That's the threshold. That's the call. In my own journey, I didn't enter this dimension through triumph. I entered it through loss. I had built an empire, millions of followers, brand deals, all the outer success one could want. But inside, I was vacant, a walking illusion. And then everything fell apart: relationships, finances, even my health. I remember collapsing in a hotel room in Tokyo, unable to breathe, and I heard something say, "Now we begin." Now? After everything was gone? Yes, because the fifth dark dimension is not for those who want to win life. It's for those who want to transcend it. And to transcend, you must walk through the ashes of your former self. That's why one of the signs that you are entering this realm is what I call the sacred unraveling. Nothing fits anymore. Your career, your relationships, your goals, they all begin to feel like someone else's life. And you may resist. You may fight to keep it all together. But the more you resist, the more reality bends. This realm is intelligent. It knows when you're pretending. It knows when you're lying to yourself. And it will confront you. Not with fire and fury, but with silence, deafening silence. The kind where your thoughts echo back to you so loudly that they shatter your illusions. You'll begin to feel like you can't hide, not even from yourself. And that's the point. The fifth dark dimension is not a place where you find answers. It's where the questions mutate you. You'll no longer ask, why is this happening to me? But rather, who is the me this is happening to? And that question, if you're brave enough to sit with it, will crack open a portal to the infinite. But only if you stop trying to be someone. Only if you dissolve completely into the unknown. Let me ask you something that might change your life. What if the version of you that is suffering right now is the exact frequency needed to unlock your next dimension of being? Not the healed version. Not the enlightened version. This version tired, confused, raw. Can you look at your pain and say you are sacred? Can you bless your darkness, not because it's good, but because it's true? In the fifth dark dimension, truth is the highest frequency. Not love, not peace, truth. And truth often shows up dressed as chaos. That's why so few stay in this dimension long. It's not comfortable. It's not beautiful. It's real. And in a world addicted to illusion, reality is the most dangerous drug. You may notice another sign. Your technology begins to glitch. Phones freezing. Devices malfunctioning. Lights flickering when you're emotional. This is not paranoia. Your energy field, when aligned with the fifth dark dimension, begins to distort electromagnetic patterns. Why? Because your consciousness is vibrating at a frequency that bends matter. It sounds insane, I know. But think about it. Have you ever walked into a room and felt everyone turn toward you without knowing why? Have you ever thought of someone and they text you seconds later? You're not imagining it. You're syncing with the quantum field. But here's the catch. You can't control it. You can't manipulate it. The moment you try to use it for ego, it disappears. That's why the dimension only opens when you're empty, because only the empty can be trusted with power. And then there's the I. If you've seen it, you know. It doesn't always appear physically, though sometimes it does. But more often, it's a presence, a knowing. A feeling that something is watching, not in judgment, but in remembrance. The I is symbolic of your higher self, observing your human self with infinite compassion. And when it appears, it's a sign you've crossed a threshold. You're no longer just a person. You're a participant in a deeper game. One where your thoughts shape worlds and your emotions rewrite timelines. But can you handle that responsibility? Can you live every moment knowing that your inner state is not just personal, but planetary? That's the test. That's the weight. One of the most confusing signs is what I call dimensional forgetfulness. You'll be in a conversation and suddenly forget who you are. Not your name. Not your story, but a deeper sense of identity. It feels like everything is dissolving: language, logic, even meaning. And in those moments, panic may arise. But if you breathe through it, something else appears: stillness. Your unshakable stillness. That's the core of the fifth dark dimension. Beneath the paradox, beneath the shadow, there is an intelligence that feels like home. It doesn't speak in words. It speaks in silence. And once you've touched it, nothing else will satisfy you again. Not fame, not love, not even spiritual highs. You'll crave only truth. But here's the secret no one tells you. The fifth dark dimension isn't a place you visit. It's a choice you live. Every day, every moment, you are either aligning with it or abandoning it. And alignment doesn't mean being perfect. It means being present, radically, painfully present. Can you sit with your guilt without fixing it? Can you witness your jealousy without judging it? Can you hold your anger like a crying child, instead of suppressing or spiritualizing it? That's the work. That's the path. And it's not glamorous. It's brutal. But it's also the most liberating thing you'll ever experience. You may start to feel like your entire life has been a setup. Like every heartbreak, every failure, every synchronicity was part of a divine puzzle leading you here. And you'd be right. The fifth dark dimension doesn't operate by chance. It orchestrates reality through resonance. And once your frequency matches the code, you're pulled in often without knowing. That's why these signs appear gradually. First, the dreams. Then, the discontent. Then, the unraveling. Until one day you realize you've already crossed the threshold. You're not becoming spiritual. You are spirit, remembering its own game. And that's where the final sign comes in. Detachment without apathy. You still love, you still care, but you are no longer attached to outcomes, to identities, to even your own thoughts. You begin to see life not as a problem to be solved, but as a poem to be experienced. And in that space, miracles happen not because you force them, but because you've become available to them. The fifth dark dimension is not about power over reality. It's about intimacy with it, and intimacy requires vulnerability. So I ask you, can you be truly vulnerable with life? Can you say yes to the mystery, even when it terrifies you? Becoming the portal. How to live as a multidimensional being in a three-dimensional world. Now that you've crossed into the fifth dark dimension, the real work begins not in escaping this world, but in inhabiting it fully as a multidimensional being. You are no longer just a body. You are a bridge, a living portal between dimensions. And that is both a blessing and a burden. Because now you must learn how to carry cosmic perception inside a human life. You must learn how to experience the infinite while paying bills, how to hold space for parallel timelines while sitting in traffic. This is the paradox that breaks many spiritual seekers. They want to stay in the clouds of transcendence, but the fifth dark dimension demands embodiment. It wants you here, fully, fiercely, fearlessly. Why? Because your presence is the technology. Your consciousness is the portal. You are not here to escape the system. You are here to recode it. You'll begin to notice that people are drawn to you, but they don't know why. They may open up to you instantly or feel triggered by your stillness. That's because your aura is no longer bound by personality. It's transmitting frequencies that disrupt illusions. And illusions do not like being disrupted. You may find yourself losing friendships, jobs, even family dynamics that no longer resonate. This isn't punishment. It's purification. The dimension is clearing your field to create energetic coherence. You can't carry old identities into a new frequency. That's why the suffering feels so personal. It's the death of the masks you didn't even know you were wearing. But as each layer falls away, what remains is something terrifyingly beautiful, raw truth. People won't understand how you know what you know. They'll ask, how did you feel that? Or why does it seem like you can see through me? And the answer is simple, because you can. As you live from this dimension, your relationship with reality changes. You no longer chase. You magnetize. You no longer hustle. You harmonize. You realize that manifestation isn't about forcing outcomes. It's about attuning your frequency so precisely that reality has no choice but to reflect it. But this is delicate work, because the ego wants to use this power for personal gain. And the moment you do, the dimension closes, not as punishment but as protection. The fifth dark dimension will not allow its codes to be used for manipulation. It's not a vending machine for desires. It's a sacred intelligence that only responds to authenticity. That's why your main practice now must be truth-telling. Not just with others, but with yourself. Can you be honest about what you want, what you fear, what you're still hiding from? Can you let your desires evolve beyond validation into vision? Another shift you'll notice, your inner world becomes more vivid than your outer one. It's not that the world becomes dull, it's that your perception expands. You start seeing energy behind form. You feel emotions as colors. You hear people's unspoken thoughts. And if you're not grounded, this can make you feel fragmented. That's why one of the most crucial skills you must develop is energetic hygiene. You must treat your field the same way you treat your body. Clean it, nourish it, shield it. This means being mindful of the media you consume, the spaces you enter, the people you allow close. Not from fear, but from frequency stewardship. Your field is sacred now. You are no longer just living, you are broadcasting. And what you broadcast becomes reality. There will be days when you feel like an alien in your own life, like you no longer belong anywhere. That's normal. It's part of the integration. You're not here to belong. You're here to remind, to awaken, to seed new frequencies into old systems. And that requires resilience. You must be able to stand in the fire of misunderstanding, of ridicule, even of isolation, and still remain rooted in love. Because love is no longer a feeling. It's become your structure. Your nervous system is rewiring. Your DNA is unlocking dormant strands. You are not just evolving spiritually, you are evolving biologically. This is why rest, water, nature, and silence are no longer luxuries. They are survival tools. You are literally becoming a new species. 1 foot in humanity, 1 foot in divinity. Can you walk that line with grace? Let me ask you something radical. What if you stopped trying to raise your vibration and instead allowed your vibration to become still enough to hear the voice of the universe? What if the goal isn't ascension, but dissension, bringing the divine into the body, into the earth, into the ordinary? That's true mastery. Not leaving the world, but loving it so deeply that your presence becomes medicine. That's what this dimension trains you for. not escape. Incarnation. Real, grounded, embodied divinity. And it's not flashy. It's not dramatic. It's subtle. It's the way you breathe when no one is watching. The way you speak when you could stay silent. The way you forgive when revenge would be easier. These are the sacred technologies of the fifth dark dimension. Not spells, not rituals, presence. And then there's the final sign, the one most people miss. It's peace. Not the peace that comes from having no problems, but the peace that comes from realizing that you are not the problem, that you never were, that beneath the trauma, the mistakes, the confusion you are, and have always been, whole. This peace doesn't shout, it whispers. And once you hear it, you'll never unhear it. It will follow you into every room, every conversation, every choice. And it will guide you not with force, but with frequency. That's when you know you're not just in the fifth dark dimension. You are it. You've become the portal. And everywhere you go, reality bends gently around your presence. Not because you're special, but because you've become transparent enough for truth to shine through. So now I leave you with the ultimate question, not to answer, but to live. What if your entire life was a training ground for this exact moment, this exact vibration, this exact remembrance? What if the signs were not just signs, but instructions? And what if you already know what to do next, if you could only be still enough to hear it? You're not alone. You never were. You're not broken. You're being initiated. You're not lost. You're being summoned. And the fifth dark dimension? It's not up there. It's right here, inside you. Welcome home.